Blow the Man Down, small town crime thriller starring Sophie Lowe, Morgan Saylor, and character actress Margot Martindale. The film has had limited screenings on smaller festivals last year and has now been released digitally. The title Blow the Man Down comes from the lyrics of a shanty, a sailor's song that is featured several times over the course of the film, as a sort of ominous chorus signaling the end of one chapter and the start of another. It is also pretty cleverly used at the very end of the film to sort of drive home the point about power and authority in the small town that the story takes place in, but I don't want to spoil how and why exactly. So it all takes place in a small fishing town in Maine. The story is kicked off by a funeral. Two sisters, Priscilla and Mary Beth Connolly, bury their mother who owned a fish store. Towards the end of the party after the funeral, they get into a heated argument and Mary Beth ends up drinking herself silly at a bar. She then gets into a car with a stranger, swept by the party mood, until she realizes that the man may actually be way more dangerous than it would initially seem. And then, whilst trying to sort of get home, run away from him, things quickly escalate and she actually ends up killing the guy. With the help of her sister, she then gets rid of the body and they both try to cover up the case. What they don't know is that the killed man had a connection to a local whorehouse run by Enid Devlin, a former friend of the girl's mother. And as the story goes on from there, what initially seems like a simple cautionary tale about crime and punishment gets more and more complicated. Additional details and small town secrets come to light, and the power dynamic of the little community gets challenged. So, I think that Blow the Man Down, and in fact most movies of this type, stand on the shoulders of their script. Fortunately, in this case, the story is well written and engaging, and it manages to keep the audience invested by the various twists and turns. Yet, these twists never seem forced or unbelievable. The story is pretty grounded, very lifelike, almost as much as all of its characters. Characters which are primarily female. This is one of those women dominated films which seem to increasingly make their way into mainstream cinema recently. However, this one I think is done really well for several reasons. The biggest one is that pretty much up until the very end, I didn't consciously realize how female driven it is. The final scene and the subsequent thoughts I had about the film made it obvious that, hey, almost all of the main characters are actually women and the story not just revolves around them but is pushed by them. But as I was watching it, I almost didn't notice any of that, which to me is a sign that it wasn't in any way forced. It felt very natural and organic that the events would happen this way, that these people would be involved in them. It also helps that all of those characters involved are believable. My personal favorites were Priscilla, played by Sophie Lowe, and Enid, played by Margot Martindale. They're almost polar opposites of one another, and yet there are a couple of scenes where both are shown as capable and calculating. Finally, what struck me was the atmosphere of the small town, constantly drenched in ocean moisture and cold air. You could say that the unpleasant weather permeates the film and comes out of the screen at the audience. I am afraid, however, that with an almost non existent marketing campaign, the film will be completely forgotten and fall into obscurity, which is a shame because if you enjoy thrillers and well written female driven stories, this one is for you.